Afternoon, everybody. Hope you're having a great day. Today, we're going to be taking a look at Marvel Rivals and doing a hero breakdown of Captain America. Got to play him a little bit. Game came out obviously Friday, and I really enjoyed playing him. There's a lot of things you need to kind of learn about him in order to actually play him effectively. So let's dive into it. Captain America, obviously, his role is Vanguard, which is tank for Marvel Rivals. So it's kind of interesting to see him as a tank role, but it kind of makes sense based on his lore with the shield and everything in comic books. His alias is Steve Rogers, also known as the First Avenger. His base stats, his health is 650, where his movement speed is about 6 meters a second. So he's not terribly slow, he's not terribly fast. He's also not super health spongy. That does change a little bit based on his role, and especially because he has a shield ability, which we'll talk about. But first, his normal attack, also known as Sentinel Strike, it is a close range punch. Landing the second one hit, second hit enables the shield throw. So basically, you hit him once, hit him the second time, and then he throws his shield, which can ricochet off of enemies up to 4 times. This is activated with the left mouse button. Now they call it a casting as a change form, and primarily that comes from the fact that it's a physical attack, a melee attack at close range, but then kind of turns into a distanced attack if you've landed those previous hits. So keep that in mind. His shield flying speed is about 60 meters a second, so it's not like something that people can easily outrun, but it could. The max flying distance for the shield is 25 meters, so it is still a relatively close range ability. So keep that in mind when you're using him. The damage he does, his melee attacks with a physical punch does 40 per hit, and then his shield throw is 45. So you gain a little bit of extra damage from that. There is a little bit of degradation in intervals. So the first hit is 4.4 seconds, the second hit is 0.5 seconds, and then the shield hit follows up with a 0.5 seconds, and then a second shield hit is 0.57 seconds. So each hit subsequently increases in time length in between each attack. So something to keep in mind. When it does come into the throwing, he can do up to 4 throws with this. So it's 1, 2, and then throw, 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 throw. So something to keep in mind with that. There is no critical hit option for this ability. So no crits, no options there. The one thing that it does have is the special effect, which is automatically targets an enemy near your crosshair. So if you're looking at an enemy and they're anywhere near your crosshair, that's the enemy it's going to attack. So if you're looking at a group of them in the field and you throw it, and there's, say, like Black Widow next to your reticle, and then the Hulk far to the left, it's going to hit Black Widow versus going to the Hulk. So you have to kind of keep spatial awareness in mind when using this. Moving forward, his first ability is Leading Dash. And really, this is nothing more than a boost of speed. So it's a boost speed and enable Fearless Leap to leap into the air. This is activated through the Shift key. So holding Shift allows him to basically run. If you're familiar with um, Overwatch, this would be Soldier 76 and his ability to run. Kind of the same concept there. It is considered a channeled casting, but you have to hold the button, so keep that in mind. It increases his movement speed by 33.4%, so it does give him a significant boost, which is kind of nice, and then it does allow him to, using the spacebar, do Fearless Leap, and that allows him to jump up 5 meters in the air and drop down. And that actually comes into play later on with another ability of his, but just keep that in mind for the future. His next ability is the Vibranium Energy Saw. Basically, it's hurl the energy charge shield to strike enemies in a path. So he actually throws his shield. You hit the E button, throw. It's a single cast projectile that can ricochet. So if it hits the enemy, it'll bounce around. It's kind of nice for that. So that does give him actually some range capabilities later on, but there is a cooldown with this. The projectile speed is 60 meters per second, so again, kind of the same speed as previously stated. Maximum distance is 25 meters, so keep that in mind. And it can do up to 3 ricochets off of it, off of enemies. Now, when you're doing that, you hit one enemy. Keep in mind the first enemy will take damage of 70, and then each subsequent enemy will take 20% less damage. So that's something to keep in mind. It does have an 8-second cooldown. So this is not something you can just be spamming while you're fighting. So you have to use it strategically with him. And his next ability is Liberty Rush. Liberty Rush is he raises the shield and charges forward, so it's a shield charge. And the nice thing about that is, press the F key, it's a single cast ability where he dashes forward. When he dashes, he goes up 12 meters, and anything that he makes contact with, so if he hits enemies or any of that kind of stuff, they take 30 damage automatically, and this has a cooldown of 12 seconds. The one thing I did notice is it does not stop making contact, or at least it didn't seem to. When you hit an enemy with it, it doesn't seem to make you stop. So it's not like either you hit 12 meters or hit an enemy. It's 12 meters. So you will move 12 meters. Anything in the way gets hit and takes damage. And group enemies can take damage, and they seem to take about 30 damage each. From what I saw, I'll have to do some more investigation. And of course, if anybody has any other comments regarding that, please put them in the comments below, because I'd like to learn and make adjustments to this if I have to re-upload or make changes in the description. Definitely up to doing that, because I want to make sure everybody has the right information. Next one is Super Soldier Slam. Now, this one is something you have to keep in mind. Basically, first to start off, slam down from the sky onto a targeted area, launching up enemies. So it is basically a knock-up ability. It does do damage, but here is the key with this. It is a left mouse button activation, so it's based off of your normal attack, but you have to be airborne. Now, if you were running using your run ability, the sprint that we talked about earlier, and you hit space, you'll leap. But the other thing to keep in mind is if you are on a stage or a arena that has multiple levels, if you're walking and you walk off the top of a higher area of the stage, you can actually activate this ability while dropping. So you do not have to leap to activate the ability. You just have to be falling for the ability to be active, and then it does create a targeted reticle that you click the button again, and it will slam down and attack them. It is instant, and you just go to where that direction is. It does have a max distance of 20 meters, so keep in mind, as you're falling, think of it as a trajectory of it's a straight movement, but it's a horizontal 20 meters. So anything within 20 meters of your falling as you're falling down is fair game to hit. Anything you hit is 30 damage. I don't know why I put a meter on there. Sorry about that. It does 30 damage, and it does a knock-up, and there is a 12-second cooldown on this, so you can't just keep repeating it. But it is useful for tactical insertion when you need to get in and start fighting. His next ability is Living Legend. He raises the shield to deflect incoming projectiles, sending them ricocheting in random directions. So this is hold the right mouse button. It is channeled while holding. You basically pull up your shield, and you have 400 hit points on that shield. The shield is directional based. So if you're familiar with Overwatch and you're playing, say, Reinhardt or Brigitte, Brigitte is probably a little bit closer to this. While the shield can deflect around you, it's only for you. So if a friendly is standing to the right or left of you, the shield doesn't really block attacks there. They need to be right behind you. So keep that in mind. This is a very positional thing. The recovery shield value is 50 points per second. Delayed recovery after release. So if you're holding the button and you release, it has 3 seconds before it begins recharging. Cooldown, if it's destroyed, is 5 seconds. So there is a 2-second delay. So it is sometimes more beneficial to pop out of cover, block something, and then drop back behind cover without the shield being broken. That way you can recharge it faster and gain more to it, gain more to the health in a shorter amount of time, as well as just shorter amount of time with the shield being down in total. It has a 1-second cooldown, so if you release the button and the shield is not destroyed, it will have a 1 second, and then you can use it again. Anything that hits the shield has a ricochet damage fall off 50%. Um, so it does bounce shots around. So when you are in a group, there is the chance that you technically damage your allies. So something to keep in mind when you're playing him. At least I think that's how it works. I haven't really seen it fully in effect yet in the game. So something to watch out for. That brings us to his ultimate, which is called Freedom Charge. Shield held high, carve a path forward, granting both himself and allies along the path continuous bonus health and movement. Using Living Legend or Leading Dash with this ability active can launch enemies up. So basically, it gives those two abilities the ability to do knockups, which is really nice, and the bonus health and movement is path based. So as you're running and you do like the ability, he'll say Avengers Assemble, and you'll get this like red, white, blue star stripe pattern that follows you. And if anybody's in that, they gain these abilities or gain these add-ons, which is really nice. It's activated through Q. It is just a quick activation, so it's instantaneous. The field lasts 10 seconds, and the area duration is 5 seconds. So keep that in mind. It is kind of a short one. When you cast it, you gain 150 bonus health. So you had like the 600 and some, now you gain 150, and all allies around you gain 100 health. Then every second afterward, they gain a bonus 110 health, and allies gain, well, that's you gain 110, and then allies gain 60 bonus health. So keep that in mind as they're running in the path. The movement boost is 30% movement speed for yourself as well as allies, and it costs 3,400 energy to get it to activate. So keep that in mind when you're fighting. And then you do have a team up. Your team up is with Thor, and this activates what is called Charged Aegis. Thor infuses Thor Force into Captain America with an electrifying enhancement. Captain America gains movement boost, and his shield is imbued with thunder power, electrocuting nearby enemies. So you activate it with the C ability if Thor is on your team. So you have to have Thor. Somebody has to play Thor for this to work. Press the C button, and it's an ability enhancement. So what this does is it's an instant cast, and it increases one of your abilities, and this happens to be your left mouse button ability, which is basically your basic ability. It gives you a shield first hit is 0.5 seconds, your second hit is 0.57 seconds. Your flying speed for your shield is increased from 60 to 100 millimeters a second, and the flying distance is 25 millimeters, or 25 meters, excuse me, and it's 100 meters a second speed. So there is that increase. Damage is 50. Your movement speed is your base movement speed plus 1 meter per second. So it goes from 6 to 7, which is kind of nice. And then you also have your sprinting. So keep that in mind. Your sprinting also adds on to this. So your sprint, it would, if you were going to use the sprint ability, it would be your base movement speed times the 33% increase. So you get the percentage increase, and then add 1 flat meter per second on that. So keep that in mind. Your duration is 6 seconds. And actually, correction, it might be movement speed is based on math. The math actually is, the math should be the same as what I said. If I'm wrong, please correct me in the comments. So the way I believe it works is it's movement speed base plus the additional percentage of your run plus a flat 1 meter per second. The other way that it could possibly work, and again, I'd have to have somebody else confirm this, would be movement speed is plus this, plus the other one. And actually, I guess it would depend on activation. So correction, it would be the activation scenario. So if you were running and activated this, it would just be the plus 1. But if you are base speed, activate, you'll get the plus 1, and then you'll get 6 plus 1, which would be 7, and then you multiply it by the percentage increased by your run. Again, sorry, I'm going off on a tangent. If that is not how that works, please correct me in the comments below. And then there is a special effect, or correction. Well, go to the special effect, Flying Shield can ricochet once, reducing the damage by 50%. And then it does have a cooldown of 20 seconds, so keep that in mind. Some of the things that I would say for tips on this character is number one, range is key. You need to close the distance. Just like any tank, closing the distance is good, but you need to keep in mind for tip number two, which is work on escape. So what I've found that works really well is running, doing the leap, and then crashing down into a group of enemies, punching them a few times, and then using the dash to get out. And that way, you have a quicker escape. Even with your running, you could be running and then use the dash and keep running to get extra distance. That extra distance is quite helpful, especially if you got a good healer that can target you and heal you. Dropping in, getting in close, they could help you heal. Then having that quick escape allows the healer more time to keep you alive, because you don't want to get wrecked. It is very easy to get in there and get wrecked pretty hard. He can shield others, and the nice thing about that is, again, it is a one-person shield. So if you're familiar with Reinhardt from Overwatch, it is not that. It is more like the Brigitte shield from Overwatch, where it is in front of you. It is one person, but you can shield against pretty much anything, and that includes Iron Fist jumping you, all these other characters I've seen. It just seems to shield against pretty much everything. Now, I will say, I do not believe it will shield against certain ultimate attacks, example being Iron Man's Pulse Blast, but I have not gotten a chance to fully test that, as during my playtime, I didn't always notice when Iron Man fired it. So it'd be something I'd like to test. If you know in the comments that it does or doesn't, please let us know, because it'd be really nice to know about that scenario. But the shield itself is quite handy for that. But keep in mind, it only has that 300 health, so you gotta work with it based on that. And then keep in mind that, again, your health is directional. So you have your base health, and then you have your shield health. Your shield health is the directional health. So if an enemy gets behind you with your shield up, the shield's not going to do anything for you. They can still tear you apart and eliminate you faster than if you turn that shield towards them. So being directionally aware of what's going on is a big thing with well, anybody in this game, but especially Captain America, and using that shield to its full advantage. Chain your abilities. Chaining them, like the punches, gets you more options. So again, 1-2 punch, then you get the shield throws. That helps. Then you chain it with a dash, then you chain it with a leap, or you chain a leap in, 1-2 punch, then shield, then, dash out, all those kinds of things. Chaining those abilities will allow you to strike really fast. I was able to target and basically lock a Scarlet Witch in a corner and eliminate them very quickly. So sometimes it's good to do it that way. It's also good against a Hulk and Groot, though I will say if Groot is working with Rocket, it doesn't work as well, because Rocket is a person who you aren't technically targeting. The other thing to keep in mind is, with your leap, you can target in the air, so you could hit flying characters like Iron Man. There's a couple other characters that fly. I'm not as familiar with all the other ones at this time, but that's just something to keep in mind. Some flying characters you could hit, but because of the range scenario, closing the distance is harder for flying guys or characters or heroes. So you need to be able to, kind of use your abilities and chain them properly to do the necessary things that you need. And then the last thing is keep moving, not standing still. You cannot brick wall as Captain America. Just stand there with your shield steadfast. It will work for a short time, but you will get mowed down quickly, especially if the enemy has a Punisher, or if they have Black Widow could do it. Technically, Iron Man could do it. And then the one that I've really had a problem with is Star-Lord. Star-Lord is rapid fire, kind of very similar to Tracer. So it's bam, 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 they're out. And that's the kind of scenario is you just don't want to get stuck taking on somebody. But, those are just some of the things that I've noticed with the playstyle for this character. These are the things that are really helpful, and maybe things will change. in the future, but I do hope that as I play this character, maybe more in the future and learn the other characters, I may come back and revisit um, this video and add additional tips in the description, or if other people bring up other tips, please feel free to do so because I would love to add those to my description or anything else. Or if I need to, maybe even redo this video if there are way more better options to give more players um, just more advantages or at least a better understanding of this character. But that's it for now. Thank you for watching. Remember to like and subscribe. Leave a comment if you have any suggestions, especially on the next hero breakdown that you'd like to see. Otherwise, any suggestions about the video format, or if you have tips or tricks or things that maybe I missed about this particular character, feel free to drop those in the comments below. But until next time, have a good evening and remember to stay nerdy.